Okay, it's day 78, and here's the big story. Republicans make criminal referral against the Russia dossier author, which is Christopher Steele. This is not good. They obviously saw something in those documents from Devin Nunes that immediately caused them to say Christopher Steele lied when he came in front of the Senate Judiciary Committee. Now, this isn't the House Intelligence Committee, this is the Senate Judiciary Committee, and this is Chuck Grassley and Lindsey Graham. Again, this is not a small publication that put this out about Christopher Steele. It's the New York Times. So this is splashed now all over the world. I do not think with this highly charged political atmosphere that the two senators there would be making a light referral over to the New York Times or over to the FBI with Christopher Wray. My speculation at this point is these transactions that were hidden, 112 transactions that were hidden by Fusion GPS, are the key. Now, they mention that there are payments to journalists that are of special interest to Christopher Steele. Perkins Coie received, as you can see here, large sums of money from potentially the DNC and then moved those sums over to Fusion GPS. Now, what did Fusion GPS do with the money? Did they pay Christopher Steele? Who knows? Did they pay journalists? We've had several journalists already admit that they've taken money from Fusion GPS. So we really have to dive down now. But when you get into this lying in front of the Senate, which is the violation of Code 18, which is the 1001 violation, that's the same thing that Michael Flynn was held on. These penalties can be quite severe. In addition, you're going to have testimony as well. I cannot see someone from a foreign country as a foreign operative coming here as a hired spy, coming before the Senate Judiciary Committee and lying, and then the FBI ignoring that situation. I just don't see how the FBI can ignore that situation. I don't know if that's what the Camp David meeting this weekend is about or not, but this is now an attempt by a foreign government to overthrow the United States government now. With this criminal referral. So this could be much more than just obstruction of justice. This could be espionage. The Espionage Act carries a death penalty. So this is getting much more serious than we had first thought. Just to now review yesterday's videos, I started the day with talking about Steve Bannon's kind of deep state connections that people weren't aware of in the movie making and Goldman Sachs. And I made a statement about Trump cutting into the Pakistan money. First, it was $220 million of direct military aid, but he's considering the whole aid package, which I believe is up to $1 billion. And people associating that, me associating that with the Navy and Bannon and cutting it off of Pakistan, were completely agog at that time of day. But by the end of the day, and not even by 4 o'clock, we saw all kinds of Navy folks and Coast Guard folks, and Navy basically being the infiltration point or jump-off point to infiltrating the Coast Guard. We saw these emergency meetings in 2015 when Braverman was saying follow the money, and the Associated Press was suing for the State Department records. Again, I didn't know how tight the situation was between the FBI and the Navy until I went to the Benghazi hearings. The FBI constantly is putting people on these Navy ships to prolong the amount of time that they can interrogate, to prolong the amount of time that they can put the prisoner in sort of a isolated situation. And the one prisoner I saw was interrogated over a period of about at least 10 days, what I saw, and pretty much all day long interrogations with prayer breaks. So I know this is a technique. If you remember watching Captain Phillips, you remember them putting him on a Navy boat. Well, why couldn't we just jump on a plane and get him immediately back to the United States? Because when you're on the Navy vessel, you're basically, all bets are off. You're under the auspices of the United States Navy and the CIA. You're not under any kind of rules around the United States, around any kind of rights and the Bill of Rights, etc. So, and then finally for your flashback for day 78, day 77, I went in and just dated these from last year, and these are just very good. This one, the day 78, talks about rat lines and how that doesn't get better themselves. For people who think I don't talk about the trafficking, you can watch that one. For this day 78 part 2, I talk about how Petraeus wrote JTF for the NATO countries as well as other countries for the CIA, and then how that became JTTF for the FBI. And then if you want to see kind of how this whole series started and how the Southern District of New York here was, Preet Bharara was running around the world using the SEC and the SE enforcement tool to basically extort donations for Hillary, rather than investigating the 650,000 emails that Robert Boyce had. So if you want to look at those flashbacks, those are good videos. Here I talk about JTF. Over here I talk more about the kind of how conspiracies don't get better by themselves, rat lines don't get better by themselves.